All right, I'm gonna look at another debate. This one is basically Dean Withers and Parker versus MAGA. And I'm gonna be honest, I have no, I've never heard or seen Parker. I do know of Dean Withers in specific. I know about like like the one funny thing about the vape pen. I know that, and I know he's one of those like to be honest, he's one of the few people I know that actively like really goes out to debates, especially on the left, which I do give him respect for. As for the other two, I don't remember the other guy's name, but I do remember he debated against a black supremacist lady. I forgot his name.
I don't
Okay,
know
let-
what
let
he
me-
believes.
let me respond.
That's the point.
Like this guy. He debated against a black supremacist lady on Jubilee. Yeah, I watched that one like forever ago, but I remember his voice and his face. I just don't remember what his name was. But anyways, we're getting into this. We're gonna see how it goes. But this was Dean Withers and Parker versus MAGA. So let's see.
I don't know.
I think a lot of
you know what he
I
believes.
don't think that we definitively know 100,000% what Trump believes. Like, just like I don't definitively know what you believe. You may be secretly homosexual or something. I don't know whether or not that's true.
Like, I say some
That's
stupid shit
that's
like that.
possibility. I'm
Okay, yeah, we're getting off to a good. We're getting off to a fucking good start. Okay. It's like I don't know if you're secretly homosexual. Holy shit. Okay. Okay.
saying secretly. That's a possibility, right?
No.
Okay, that's not a possibility.
No, because I'm myself. I know whether or not I'm straight.
Oh my
Again.
God! Stop, guys.
Hold on, because you're gay. You're gay. Later find out you're gay.
Right.
You're a
The
liberal.
conservative
You're a
party
liberal.
folks.
I wanted to off
The
topic real quick.
only group
You're
of
telling me.
people who will push homosexuality on you.
Parker, you're gay. Parker, you're gay. You
I
can't be
didn't
gay.
even
the oh, okay. Okay, this one's fucking stupid. Okay. Okay, let's hope they start off with something else, but like Jesus Christ. That was a start.
I just said it.
I'm
You're
telling you
telling
right
me it's
now, I'm
impossible.
straight. I'm not
okay,
gay.
okay.
Like,
I mean, the fact that you're fighting is hard, man.
I'm Dean Withers, and I'm a progressive liberal.
I'm Parker, and I'm a progressive liberal.
I'm mad.
Yeah, as I said, I don't know Parker. I've seen Dean a couple times. Yeah, Matt, that's it. But I've seen Matt in specific. I think it was it's just one time during another Jubilee debate. I think I might have seen him once talk to Ben Shapiro. I don't know for sure. But as for this guy, I have no fucking clue who he is. I will say that suit kind of clean. That suit kind of clean.
And I am a classical conservative.
I'm Dennis Fetosa. I'm an America First conservative. I'm running for Congress, and you are watching Roundtable.
So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job. But their Navy is gone, as I've said 1,000 times. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Everything's gone, and they're negotiating on fumes. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we have to go back and finish it. Maybe we don't.
Trump is proving that peace through strength works. Iran is negotiating because it knows America is finally willing to finish the job.
If we're considering that, quote unquote, be demonstrating peace through.
So I'll give an example. I actually agree with this because the problem is Iran's leadership is entirely structured upon basically funding other groups and then pretending you're not a part of what's happening. So they'll say Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, they have a couple others, but basically all these groups, what Iran would do is they would use oil and other money in order to fund these groups, and then they kind of just let these groups do whatever they want around like their own neighbors, around Somalia, around like Palestine. And then these groups would basically buy military weapons, buy guns, obviously buy food for themselves. And then after that, they're just kind of let loose to run wild, do whatever they want. As long as they're like an Islamic extremist regime, Iran will openly and happily support them. And they also have things like sleeper cells. They probably have like far more groups they're funding across it. But that is Iran's basically biggest influence across the Middle East. Nobody fucking likes them in the Middle East because like when the war started, they immediately shot all their neighbors first and foremost. So all the Islamic countries around them didn't even want to like fuck with them anymore. Then, obviously, when Israel and America started attacking, everyone saw, but not a single Islamic country backed up Iran. They just let Iran be destroyed, or they didn't want to be a part of it, or at like the biggest, or like pretty much the most, the biggest ends that they did was related to allowing the US military to use and have full access of their bases before, attacking. Also, Israeli forces too, to also have access to all those bases before they have to do things like refueling or maybe like restructure attacks or maybe like change positions, whatever. They would have all that. But now let's get into it.
Your strength is getting Iran to negotiate, and more specifically, getting them to negotiate by first starting a war. Well, then I don't think that this is something that's been proven to work, considering the fact that we were in a better position a decade ago under Obama with the JCPOA without a war in Iran.
Yeah,
I'd say we were in a better position during, like, before Jimmy Carter's administration, before the IRGC took a stronghold over Persia and fucked up the entire country and turned it into a religious shithole where women would get killed for, literally not fucking wearing hijabs or listening to music. And then these guys used it to fund terrorism for pretty much ever since then that moment happened. And that's the problem. We were in a far better position literally before Jimmy Carter's administration, because the Shah was actually like one of the U.S. allies, and I'm not saying he was perfect. I'm not saying he was like the best at his job, whatever. But compared to Khomeini and his son, who I think he was also called Khomeini, but the guy that died in the war, the guy that they made all the like edits about him being gay and having a like gay hijab and all that shit. Those two were extremely like basically most people would consider them the Hitler of their time, especially during like especially in terms of the Middle Eastern area. And whenever anything happened, like when they killed 30,000 protesters and all that, what they did is just turned off the internet so then nobody would be able to see like all the atrocities they commit. And then there's an extremely high amount of people in America who are, I would say, not only sympathetic, but, and I'm not saying like sympathetic to like people in Islamic groups, but actually terrorist supporters, which is the very, very big problem that is currently like I think happening.
just disagree with that immediately. I don't think that the JCPOA was peaceful, right? Because the JCPOA essentially allowed the Biden administration to unfreeze billions of Iranian assets that were held in Qatar, held in Iraq, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but basically it was Iran's own assets that were frozen, but eventually Obama and the United Nations did a couple things, and then eventually, Iran could get money back. That was one of them, and also they were allowed to have like nuclear energy, but it was only supposed to be up to a certain amount, like stuff like that.
Under the Obama administration, they unfroze assets, and under the Biden administration, they also unfroze assets. And this essentially allowed the IRGC, as they are the #1 state sponsor of terrorism, to support groups like the Houthis in Yemen that have disrupted global maritime trade in the Red Sea. I believe specifically $200 billion of the economic damage that was done in the Red Sea because of the support of the IRGC. They created the Yemeni civil war in 2011, for example, with conflicts with one of their largest economic partners of Saudi Arabia. They fueled and funded Hamas to support them and gave them intelligence to conduct October 7th, which was the second largest terrorist attack in the 21st century. I mean,
wait, second? I thought it was the third. What the fuck? Second? I thought it was the third largest. What the fuck? Well, whatever. But for anyone who like doesn't know, basically October 7th is the equivalent of Israel's version of 9/11, basically. But what happened there were people were at a music festival, and then Islamic terrorists sent a bunch of rockets there. They kidnapped a bunch of people, they raped a bunch of people, they tortured a bunch of people. They like even threw out videos of them doing that. And that's what happened at the festival, which eventually started out that giant ass war, because Israel and them, like, they weren't cool before, but this is when Israel needed to, start a giant military to basically go into those areas, occupy certain areas, and kill, an extremely high amount of Hamas members. And the bad part about and the very worst part about this conflict specifically is everybody knows it. Hamas is smaller, has I'm assuming they have less people. They have less weapons. They don't have like really an air force. They don't have really a navy. They don't really have a extremely strong high military capacity. But they decided to attack a nation that is pretty much the second strongest army in that entire region. And so what happened is they started a war with them. Let's be honest. If this happened to China, and I said many times, but Palestine, if it was right next to China and they attacked China, it would be a fucking parking lot. There would be nobody left. There would absolutely be nobody left. But whatchamacallit? Because of what happened, October 7th happened, obviously they occupy areas. And this is a sad thing where, as I said, I feel bad for the Palestinians because the thing is, their own government happily kills them, is more than willing to let them starve, doesn't give a fuck about them. All they care about is using any amount of resources, time, money, and whatever spent in order to attack and kill people from Israel, no matter what it is. So that's the first part, which is their entire government doesn't give a fuck about them. And I mostly feel bad for the kids. I know there are a lot of adults there that actually do support or act upon Hamas. They're the ones that, But then for Israel, like everybody knows, but Israel went into those areas, a war started, and the bad thing about war is that a lot of innocent people die. Like, this is just the number one thing. No matter which war you go to, no matter which part in history, a lot of innocent people tragically die in wars. And it's one of those things where it sucks, but it's literally a second order effect of it. Because when you go into a full scale fight with somebody, it just happens. It happened in World War II. It happened in World War One. It happened in Iraq. It happened in the Iraq War. It happened in every single fucking war in history. It happened in the like Namkang and during World War II. It happened during that. By the way, that one was bad too. But anyways, a lot of innocent people tragically die, so there's a lot of sympathy for that. But then the problem I have is when people take that sympathy and then apply it to Hamas as if Hamas is a entirely like, whatchamacallit, entirely sympathetic organization. And they'll, like, some people will make excuses that they'll be like, oh, they're freedom fighters, or they're the good guys, or oh, they do absolutely nothing wrong. Like, they'll make a lot of excuses for specifically Hamas because a lot of people think the entirety of the Palestinians are basically equal Hamas. But that's not the problem. They were voted in for the government in 2005, obviously. But they took over the government. They don't give a fuck about their people. They happily use their own children as meat shields to die. And then they'll happily send out whatever videos and propaganda against it. That is Hamas. So by both areas, they're basically being fucked over completely because it sucks for them. It really does. But yeah,
the Hezbollah, for example, in southern Lebanon, right, in their war with Israel and their South American drug trafficking operation that was like Operation Cassandra, I believe, exposed in 2008 by the DEA. Sure, like the JCPOA limited their enrichment, right? It wasn't at 60%. But the issue with the JCPOA doesn't account for Iran being the main state sponsor of terrorism, and it also didn't account for them having the largest missile stockpile in the Middle East. So that's like the main issue with the JCPOA.
So you do disagree with Trump's war in Iran? Because even Donald Trump is, in his negotiations with Iran, is willing to relinquish economic sanctions on the country, promoting more economic activity, which would then lead to the same sort of outcome as like unfreezing their.
I will say, I actually think Parker here has a good point, which is I would prefer Trump would be a lot harsher on Iran because as I'm saying, killing their entire air force and navy was obviously a huge fucking step. But the problem is Iran's leadership is basically that they are liars, and they are more than happily willing to prolong, lie, and just not do anything that is said of them, no matter the situation. That's the biggest problem that I have with Iran in specific. They are extremely bad actors, and they don't give a shit about anything.
funds, for instance. So that's like my one issue. When I hear people on the right saying, well, the reason why I disagreed with Obama's JCPOA is because it unfroze funds. It gave them back some of the money
Can I respond to that?
which they sold goods to us in the 70s. Well, we'd see the same outcome from, Trump's war today. If we relinquish the sanctions, if we allow them to promote more economic productivity within their own country, well, then they're going to have more money to do the same thing.
Well, the real is like 2 million to the dollar. That's one. And number two, currently they've suffered like
He's right about that. Let me see if I can pull that up. Real.
$4 billion worth of lost oil revenue because we blockaded their blockade, right? Preventing them from also exporting oil over to China, which about 50% of their oil goes to. I do agree that like Trump offered them like a short-term relief where they can export oil, not because that he wants.
Here it is. Boom. 1 0 fucking dollars. Okay. 10. 100. 1,000. So yeah. If you get basically the equivalent of 1 million real, you have 73 cents. He is right about that. A lot of the protests in Iran first started actually because of economics, but basically the government let the entire fucking money crash to the point where people can't even fucking buy eggs anymore.
He loves Iran, but just to obviously decrease the global economic turmoil because of the oil loss, obviously. But generally, he does believe in John Bolton's, Mark Levin's, Lindsey Graham's maximum pressure strategy on Iran. And I don't think this is like a new war. I just think Trump is addressing things that other presidents or prior presidents were not able to address.
Do you think that Trump got Iran closer to a nuclear weapon?
No, I don't believe that Trump got Iran closer to a nuclear weapon.
You don't think pulling out of a JCPOA led to them getting closer to a nuclear weapon?
No, because Trump would.
Not really, because he literally blew them the fuck up last year. And also this year, the full-scale war started. But I'd say he set them back. I don't know about permanently ending it. I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Be willing to actually strike Iran in their facilities. Like Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan were struck during Midnight Hammer.
So because they got closer, we then had to strike them, acknowledges that you are saying that it actually got closer in the first place. So Trump pulling out of the JCPOA did get Iran closer to a nuclear weapon. Would you agree?
No, I wouldn't agree to that.
That's just denying reality.
What you're failing to understand is that their enrichment. Hold on, their enrichment was 60%, right? Which is like really close to 90%, which is weapons grade.
Is that higher than 3.67?
Of course, but the reason. But can I respond to that? Can I respond? Can I respond to that really quickly? Okay, great. What you're failing to understand is that the intelligence report that came out.
Oh, I'm gonna say this real quick. I can kind of hear. I can kind of hear the Ben Shapiro. I can kind of hear the Ben Shapiro. Like I think he might have took inspiration, but I can kind of hear it. I can kind of hear it.
Before that was that they were not trying to build a nuclear weapon. Of course, they were at the 60%, which was a crazy level of enrichment, but we didn't assess that they were actually actively willing to build one. And if they were going to actually go for a bomb, like they were, for example, before in the earlier 2000s, we would actually strike, right? For example, Biden was not able to reinstate an Iran nuclear deal. But I believe if Iran were to really try to get a nuclear bomb during Biden's time period, he wouldn't be willing to strike, and Trump would be willing to strike.
So prior to Midnight Hammer, were they higher than 3.67%?
I think you already know the answer to that. Yes. Of course.
Yes. Is that closer to the 90% necessary to be able to weaponize the enriched uranium?
Yes, but we'd be able to strike before that.
So they objectively are closer to a nuclear weapon. Do you now agree?
Yeah, but they were closer in 2021.
So now he agrees.
Biden.
He's now.
I'd say recently, not now. We're farther. I could say maybe there's a chance that like before Midnight Hammer, they were closer to a nuclear bomb than ever. But the thing is, like, I'm just going to say it. These guys, as well as those guys, none of them have access to military information. Hell, I don't have access to military information. So the only thing we know is what the U.S. government tells us, because the U.S. government is the only people capable of telling it, and I don't think people in Congress like specifically are, but in terms of I think Donald Trump knows how close they were. Definitely, I know the military knows. Definitely, probably some of the like intelligence organization as well. I bet Mossad probably knew. I bet like Benjamin Netanyahu probably knew, because these are people with the technology capable of finding out the enrichment levels themselves. People like us fucking can't. People like us can't. So we don't actually know. We don't actually know. It's one of those things where we just kind of have to accept what they tell us, and that's just the thing. We are not the military.
Conceded. Thank you.
Okay, I mean,
So is Trump
the
actually
issue
closer to peace through
Right.
strength if he's established us in a worse position and actually?
Well, it's not a worse position.
Closer
This is
to a nuclear
yeah.
weapon
The,
now?
the issue with your hold on, can I respond? The issue.
Hold
Hold on. The issue is that your argument's very reductive. So, for example, Marco Rubio has made it very clear, along with everybody else, that it's not just about their nuclear weapon this time. Like, we didn't get the highly enriched uranium. Yeah, we bombed Natanz and bombed their facilities again, obviously. But we've done more than that, apart from, for example, hitting their Shahed drone capacity, their missile capacity, destroying their destroyers, right? Depleting their naval capacity, hitting top IRGC and nuclear scientists, and making their government dysfunctional, right? Stressing their economic ability to project power by obviously decreasing their monetary means by like $4 billion. So it's multifaceted than just nuclear weapons. And I think the reason why we're in the current position that we are is because Obama, right, and prior US presidents like Biden thought that it was just as simple as their nuclear weapon. No, Iran is a much larger threat than just nuclear weapons. I mean, for God's sakes, they produce drones for Russia, right? They give cheap oil to China. There's so many other different
Oh yeah, that's true. So everybody knows, we took over Venezuela because they first wanted the giant oil supply, which would help cut off oil from China. That's like one of the minor steps. There's obviously a lot of like other reasons they took Venezuela, but that's just one of them. And then what happened is Iran, they started the war to basically do the same thing, where it would cut off cheap oil supplies to China. Because if I remember, I don't remember if it was Venezuela or Iran, but one of them, China, was basically exporting 80% of all their oil. I'm assuming most likely it was Iran, but China is a very oil hungry nation, and they basically need it to survive and do military operations, basically. They are just way too big, and they need a shit ton of imports.
variables and how them being a destabilizing force. Looking at it through purely, the nuclear weapons is a very reductive way of doing it. I know that's like the main thing that we bring up because that's like the biggest fear factor, but it's more multifaceted than just the nuclear weapons.
Your position relies on being actively at war with them. They will just be able to build up all of those missile capabilities after, so there's a perpetual need to constantly go back to war with them. So you're actually not providing an option that gets you closer to the deal in terms of preventing them from getting a
Yeah, I'll say this. I actually think his point's bad. Because the problem is he's assuming Iran wants to sign and commit to a deal and then it's over in the first place. A deal is only as strong as its enforcement, and Iran couldn't give a really shit less about about deals or what it is. They've done it many times. They've agreed to deals and then they didn't, and then they shot rockets at places, and then Israel shot rockets at them back, and then the US shot rockets at them back. And then they've also actively like built underground tunnels that were specifically for enriching uranium in secret, so they would try and avoid the US military, being able to find out about it. This is the problem. This is a problem with that. Iran is not a willing participant in making a deal. Iran is an active military that is willing to kill its own civilians as well as continue to fight tooth and nail, specifically for creating any and all military strengths and deterrences for any enemy nations they find, as well as funding terrorist groups around the region. They are liars, and that's the problem. He's assuming that Iran wants to reach a deal. The US and Israel, I think they want to reach a deal. Even though it may not be everything they want. Problem is, Iran, I don't think they want to reach a deal. That's the problem.
nuclear weapon, because actively going to war with them reduces our bargaining power because it led to them actually just closing the Strait of Hormuz, which inevitably.
Why are they willing to engage now?
What you said? Why are they willing to engage? Are they really engaging? Where's
Yeah,
the
they are
negotiation?
actually.
Why did we strike in southern Lebanon?
So the negotiation.
Answer the question. Why did we strike in southern Lebanon if they're negotiating?
Okay, really quickly. So on Israel.
Oh, I remember that. What happened there was the peace deal was basically not taking that into account. But what happened was not peace deal, the ceasefire. But when the US and Iran made a ceasefire, it included Israel not attacking Iran. But the problem is Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran in that area, also basically doing Iran's bidding. So what happened was Israel started shooting rockets at them specifically, because of that. And it's one of those things where everyone's like, oh, well, you can't do this because of the peace deal. But the thing is, they're doing Iran's bidding, and Iran basically has proxy groups like that, like pretty much all over the world. That's the problem. Well, let's see.
Has been the one
He's not
striking in
gonna
southern
respond.
Lebanon, not America. So I think you're just confused.
So they're
there.
not coordinating?
Well, coordination now is different from us actively striking. So I like how you're changing
Can
the
we
topic.
just take a second? Hold on. We've just gotten so
I'll
far.
let him go.
US and
I'll
Israel are
respond.
not.
I'll say that. I don't believe the US military and Israel are 100%, on the same page. I'm going to say that. Obviously, both nations have, like, they both have goals. I think they probably have maybe like 50 to 60% of the same goals. But when it comes to the last, like, 40%, like roughly that, I think that's where a lot of differences are. It's just one of the things. I don't think Israel and America 100% agree to each other's interest and what they exactly want. That's the thing I think of.
We're only looking at a microscopic aspect of the claim. We're not even looking at all the actions that happened that could be argued. There was Venezuela, there were the strikes that happened last year. Sure, the war has been, in my eyes, a tremendous failure. Hasn't really proven peace through strength has worked. But as far as the claim that Iran is negotiating because it knows America is finally willing to finish the job, I don't believe that's true. I mean, I don't think there's anybody coming to the table. I think that we're just having Israel still strike them by proxy. And I think that, honestly, I'm just looking at this objectively. Sure. I think that it benefits, and I'm saying this as a Republican, I'm saying this as somebody who saw just everything just flip on our party the moment that this war started, that we're cooling things off because we're about to get slammed in the primaries. That's really what's happening.
I actually 100% fully agree with him. The thing is, the oil prices went up, like that happened, and as well, there's a lot of like IRGC sympathizers. That's the biggest problem, which is I saw that the midterms are coming. Trump started the war. Maybe he thought the war would end far faster than expected. Maybe he thought they were going to be more reasonable, like Venezuela. But then they turned out, even though their entire navy's dead, their entire air force is dead, like pretty much half their leadership is fucking dead, that these guys are still fucking trying to do it. It's kind of like if you fought a dude and he had both his legs cut off, his arm cut off, one of his eyes shot off, like he had half his guts on the floor, and he still wants to fucking fight you. It's like that, and you're trying to come to a peace deal. That's what I see it as. That's literally what I see Iran as, bro. But I fully agree with him. It's because of the midterms that they're trying to slow this down because it's going to badly hurt them.
It's true. I mean, it is. I mean, we look at the approval rating of the war in Iran inside of the American electorate. We see it's like 16%. Okay, not too many people support it. You, me, and Parker included. But I mean, once again, just reducing ourselves down to the bare bones of the prompt. Donald Trump is proving peace through strength because he's showing strength, he's going to war with Iran, and that is the mechanism in which is then allowing them or making them negotiate with us. Well, I feel like the answer to this question is so obvious, okay? Obama got them to negotiate. I know you think that.
And this is a problem I find with kind of both, but him, which is, as I said, he's assuming Iran actually wants to follow through and actually enact a treaty of some sort. I don't think they want to. That is the problem.
He negotiated a poor deal with them because he was unwilling to freeze their accounts. Okay, well, that's exactly what Trump is going to do with other monetary means in the war today, regardless if it's either directly giving the money or indirectly giving the money by relinquishing the sanctions. It's going to happen. But the point is that Obama got them to negotiate without killing 160 girls in an elementary school in southern Iran.
Yeah, just killing
Obama
thousands
got
of
them.
more.
Oh yeah, he brought this, but I'll say what happened. What happened basically was one of the IRGC's missiles, like I'm gonna say it, they literally put the school right next to a military fucking zone. Well, that's what happened. Iran obviously shot missiles near that area. Whether or not who blew it up or hit it, like it's fucking tragic if the girls did die. I will say that. But the kind of problem is this is kind of the thing about the IRGC, which is they're willing to use their own civilians as meat shields for their ideology. Like people saw, but when I think when he wanted to attack the bridges, they literally had people holding hands there, you know, more than willing to be shot and killed and be martyred for the sake of doing it. That is a problem with their ideology. They're happy to put people to fucking die because then they can use it as propaganda, when it's basically like the equivalent of you have a baby in a stroller, and let's say there's a car coming and it's coming at 60 miles per hour, and you push the baby on the road. And let's say the car, which has two options now, because like he barely noticed it, there's barely enough time, but he either can try to fully stop the car and then spin out and then like maybe crash into something else, or if he can't notice it, he'll try to swerve, but then maybe he'll fuck up, and then what happens is he hits the baby, he hits a pole, he barely survives, the baby dies, and then the parent, which is Iran, goes like, "Oh, you killed my baby. Oh, you hurt me." And then that is Iran. That is Iran's strategy. It always has been.
I mean, you can't
Just
really.
killing
We can't.
thousands
Hold
of
on. You can't really
and the
claim
reason
moral
why I
high
bring
ground
that
here.
up-
He was just.
We could
he
talk
killed
about the
most
hospital in
civilians.
Afghanistan. We
No,
absolutely
not just
can.
that. He killed the most civilians by drone strikes.
Listen,
Just let him.
I definitely agree with that. There's a shit ton of
Actually, the drone strikes, I'll say this. Wait, no, he said civilians. Fuck. Okay, never mind. He said civilians. I thought he was saying most drone strikes. I know Trump has the most drone strikes. As for civilian deaths, I don't know, because I don't know in specific. I don't know that part in specific, basically. But I know Trump has the most, at least by numbers, drone strikes, basically out of all the presidents who could use it, which is in total Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump, basically. I don't think George Bush had access to it, or maybe it was like too early to really tell if it was useful. But I'm pretty sure only those guys had access to it.
war crimes in the Middle East under Obama.
Libya.
But the point that I'm making is just simply the fact
Forever
that
destroyed.
one of the good things he did was he proved that we can negotiate with Iran without going to war. And then the only reason why Donald Trump tore up that deal
Can I respond?
is because
It was a weak deal, though.
Well, hold on.
I mean,
really quickly. There's a
Let him
the
finish.
pallets of cash, all that stuff. It was weak.
the pallets of cash that were theirs. We scammed them in the 70s.
okay. Hold on.
Wait,
Can I
Do you
respond?
guys think it's stronger for now that Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon comparative to what they were 10 years ago under
well, they're not-
under
they're not-
Obama?
well,
I think it's
it wasn't-
stronger.
it didn't-
I think, as I said, before Operation, before Operation Nighthammer, I think maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But I think after it and during this war, they're definitely set back to a certain extent, like very harshly.
it didn't have the
Let me
kind of
please finish.
deterrent
Let me
effect
please
that
finish.
was.
So I think
was
it's
meant to have.
stronger if we were to prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon to a greater extent, which would, by the way, still be in place until 2030.
Right. So let me just really quickly respond. You're still stuck on this nuclear weapon thing, which I don't blame you.
Isn't that what he's saying is the main thing?
Well, no, actually. So
is.
he's been
That's what
talking
Trump is
about, just really quickly, that's one of the main factors, obviously. But I told you that there's a broader umbrella and things to look like. For example, Iran has like the Quds Force, which is like their own specialized force. 300 of them, for example, in Venezuela. They've given hundreds of missiles to Cuba and, for example, Venezuela. They've been operating as a pro-Russia axis of evil in the Middle East. And they are a large country with significant military power, with significant ability to project and to obviously engage in warfare. I mean, what other country do you see launch missiles at Israel like Iran or the UAE or Qatar and so on and so forth? And all of those Gulf countries are also obviously in support of this.
I agree with
Now, Dean Withers, obviously, you've mentioned the point that he got him to negotiate. I think there's a difference between getting someone to negotiate on a great deal, right, that actually encompasses the complexities of their ability
How
to
do you know
project
it's a great
negative
deal?
power, right? And there's a difference between getting them on that deal and getting them to a deal that was better. The JCPOA, UN
How do you
Resolution
know that Trump is
2231,
going to negotiate a great deal?
well, given the fact that he believes in the max
As far as today comes, we don't know what the deal is. I hope it comes to something strong, but at the same time, I don't trust the IRGC at all. I really don't.
pressure strategy on Iran, given the fact that he's not as lenient on Iran, whatever deal comes out of this is obviously going to involve major concessions for the IRGC. That's objectively true. Like, for example, I can get Iran to agree to not like invade Afghanistan, but it's not like they're planning to anyways. It doesn't matter. A good deal is when you actually address all of the concerns surrounding the IRGC in Iran, their ability to project power, their ability to build a nuclear bomb is obviously a good one, which we've completely decimated, by the way. Just got to get the enriched uranium and their missile stockpile in the Middle East, right? and stopping the 3 main terrorist groups they support. That would be, encompassing a deal like that would be great. The JCPOA included sunset clauses, which meant that within 10 years, in 2025, where it ended, obviously, they would be allowed to continue to enrich uranium, and you'd have to get a new deal. And there was nothing in there that ever encompassed anything about their terrorist organizations, which we gave them more money to support, or their missile, for example, power. By the way, a day before the 12-day war started, okay, I believe the IAEA came out with a report saying that Iran had enough enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. And then we struck with Midnight Hammer, okay? And Trump gave them a 60-day warning, right? Before that, to sign a deal, they refused and they were hit. Simple.
So you're wrong about a
part's
couple
true.
things.
That part's
First, you had a
true.
misunderstanding of what the IAEA said. They didn't say that they had enough enriched uranium to build 9 atom bombs. They said that they have enough uranium that if they were to further enrich it, they'd have enough to build 9 uranium bombs. That's the official report.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they didn't have enough to build it. They just had enough that if they got the other stuff and put it together, they would build it. Literally what Dean Weathers said. Oh, well, you know, they don't have enough to build a phone. They just almost have a motherboard fully made, which then would allow them, if they got a battery and a couple metal parts, to put the phone together. Bro, that's basically what this motherfucker said, bro. Oh, okay, Dean, whatever.
Reporting from the IAEA, check it out yourself. This is something I looked at 2 weeks ago in the middle of a debate because somebody made the same point and I Googled it. Now, the second point that I'll make here is while I think that you're kind of throwing on a lot of extra justification for Trump's war on Iran that just simply doesn't exist. You're saying, well, not only is he going after this nuclear threat, but all these other things like proxy terror groups, power and control over the Middle East as a whole. And that's not what we see. When Donald Trump started this war on February 28th, why did he say he did? Not because of terror groups, not because of the Houthis or Hamas.
Oh, he said, let me guess. Was it the video he said because of oil? Because the thing is that is one of the things. There's like 30 fucking reasons they started this war, but oil was definitely one of them.
But rather because of a quote-unquote imminent nuclear threat that never existed,
Oh,
as confirmed by our DNI, or I guess who we had as our DNI at the time, Tulsi Gabbard. Everything else that you've added on in the middle of this debate is not something that they've added on from D.C. It is your personal justification for the unjustified. And I'll pass the mic to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, the narrative around the war itself has changed multiple times because Mike Johnson, Tom Cotton, even Marco Rubio, and there's a State Department memo from April 21st that says that we preemptively struck with Israel because Israel was just going to strike them, and we did it in defense of our interests there. I don't think
Okay, here's the thing. We already put a bunch of ships there with bombs. This operation was going on for months before the war started, where they were moving a bunch of ships, they were moving a bunch of oil tankers, they were moving a bunch of planes, they were setting things up, they were getting facilities started, they were getting a huge ton of missile stockpile. All this stuff was happening months and months and months before the war started. This wasn't like some new thing that popped out of nowhere. This is something that if nobody was really paying too much attention to like the small details, they wouldn't have noticed. They got Venezuela's oil because they would need it later for when they attack Iran. And then when they attack Iran, they know the oil supply is going to be cut short. So America's using it as a way to get more money, specifically because the oil is obviously going to go up in price. That's number one. 20% of the supply is down, but they have control of the biggest reserves in the entire world of oil, that is Venezuela, because their operation at the start of the year. And then after that, they got all their military resources, they got all their oil supplies and everything in order to go into start a navy blockade and all that stuff in Iran. This was all planned before. And I'm going to say, I find the people that think, oh, these are all just coincidences dumb, because Trump is not a stupid person. I'm going to say he does act like a stupid person, but it's like all these things simultaneously, and it's like various plans all simultaneously done, and then they all should simultaneously lead to the same fucking outcome, which is, oh, we're going to go to a war with Iran. Like he's not dumb, but let's see.
it's really peace through strength. to attack on behalf of another country. And then at the same time, you have people like Jonathan Pollard going on podcasts saying that the next aim is Turkey, that they're going after Egypt. So this is obviously, we're there to ensure the security of Israel. It's not peace through strength. The reality of the situation is, if it were truly peace through strength, it would be.
Here's what I think. I think the U.S. has interest above Israel for the Middle East being, like, being in more of its influence and control. And another big point is that they also have allies there. Saudi Arabia, Dubai, they have various other allies there in that region as well, besides Israel. The Abraham Accords, all this stuff, as well as him visiting like a bunch of those nations to try and get good relationships with them before this operation started. All of this was done so that he would try to get in the best interest of all those nations together. That's literally what happened. It's not only Israel. It's more than Israel, but Israel is a big part of it, if that's it. Because this, undoubtedly, it does help Israel. 100% it does. But it also helps America, because America does not want another fucking, enemy group with nuclear bombs that they have to kind of, not be as harsh on or as, like, punishing on because of them having nuclear weapons. That's the thing.
In America's interests, on behalf of our interests as taxpayers, we're funding a military action that's not helping our country.
So I think we got a lot of things said, talking about the JCPOA and Iran, whether or not they're a nuclear threat or not an imminent nuclear threat, whether or not we should be involved in this conflict and the complexities around the nuclear deal, and whether or not this is truly worth it for America or America first.
Imagine boarding a plane and hearing the pilot say, "Don't worry, this is actually my first time flying."
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, absolutely not. Some situations are way too important to trust the wrong person. And honestly, the same goes for hiring a lawyer after getting injured because of someone else's negligence. There's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm and the sponsor.
Morgan & Morgan. Let me guess. She's gonna say that, I think it was, if you lose, your trial and fees are free, but if you win, you'll have to pay a certain amount, but then after that, you could get your lawsuit or whatever. She's gonna say something like that.
Today's video. Morgan & Morgan specializes in a wide range of personal injury cases and have won thousands of big cases. With over $30 billion recovered for their clients, Morgan & Morgan knows a thing or two about fighting for the compensation you deserve. The best part? Morgan & Morgan's fee is free unless you win. If you've also been a victim of
Yep, right.
a personal injury or any other serious accidents, you can visit www.forthepeople.com/Jubilee, found in the description below, to start your free claim today. Thanks to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring.
I'll put this up. Oh, yeah, if anyone trusts Jubilee, there's a sponsor right there. Here's the thing. I never personally use Morgan & Morgan, so I'm like, I can't say something I didn't use. But yeah, if you trust Jubilee and you trust Morgan & Morgan, go ahead, check it out and see if you like it.
This portion of the episode. Now, let's get back to the video.
Tonight, in an extraordinary move, the Justice Department declared the IRS is, quote, forever barred and precluded from auditing President Trump, his family, his oldest sons.
Oh, I know this. Okay. I'll just do long story short. Long story short, they're not allowed to from 2024 and back, because the IRS, what they did was they inspected pretty much all of his financial records and they leaked them. So they are not allowed to it's not actually that, oh, you can't investigate Trump. It's that you can't investigate Trump from 2024 and all the years back, because they went through all his financial records and then leaked them to the public. And then that's what the lawsuit is about. But yeah, that's just short term. To be honest, I never made a video on this because I didn't care too much about the situation, if that made sense.
And their companies are pursuing any claims for past actions. It's part of the unprecedented settlement after President Trump dropped his $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS. The deal was orchestrated by the head of the DOJ, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who is Trump's former personal attorney. Blanche faced tough questions on Capitol Hill today.
You're the president's consigliere. Your perspective is completely wrong, Senator,
Well,
respectfully.
I think the facts will prove me right.
The president's settlement also creates a nearly $1.8 billion fund, taxpayer money, to pay for Trump allies or anyone else who claims they were mistreated by the Biden Justice Department. It's a group that includes the roughly 600 people charged with obstructing or assaulting police on January 6th.
Trump's IRS settlement is not justice for political persecution, it's corruption in plain sight.
Oh, wow, we all agree.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see everybody's light on. Well, this might be less of a debate and more of a chit chat, I guess.
We're talking about whether or not the DOJ is being weaponized by the Trump administration. Obviously,
here's what I think. No one's gonna like this, but Biden weaponized the DOJ, and Trump is also weaponizing the DOJ. The problem is people are like, "Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that." Yes, you clearly can. They investigated all his businesses. They investigated him. They had, I think it was like 190 subpoenas to all his businesses, to everything around him. And then they gave him 39 felonies off of a like $100-something thousand accounting error. It was 100% weaponized against him, and I'm gonna say it. He is gonna weaponize it against his enemies, and that's basically what's going to happen. It's going to happen, and people that think, oh, you should just be nonpartisan. Well, if nonpartisan is basically, you get fucked over, but then you can't fuck over people because, well, you have to be a good person. As I said, well, this is why I'm not too big on this one. That makes sense.
there was a big conversation about whether or not a special counsel would be established to go over Trump's grievance with the IRS. I'm pretty sure there was a man named Little John who, former IRS contractor, obviously, he exposed a lot of IRS information relating to many billionaires, including Trump, and that was obviously awful. But the main thing is that Trump now controls the DOJ, which falls under the executive branch, and so he's overseeing his own,
Yeah, but I'm gonna say this because I actually don't think this argument's the best one, because basically when he left office, it was weaponized against him. Because here's the thing: if Trump didn't win the presidency, this lawsuit would still be occurring anyways. This lawsuit would still be happening. The difference is he won the presidency and the lawsuit's still continuing. That's the thing. It was going to continue whether he won or lost the election. So I actually don't agree with him here.
Claim with the DOJ that when he has his own cabinet members obviously overseeing it. So obviously that creates a conflict of interest, and I agree that's bad. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, just to build off of that, I mean, not only does he oversee the DOJ because Todd Blanche was his nominee for the acting attorney general, but I mean, it was a lawsuit against himself. Donald Trump sued Trump. He sued the IRS, who he also appointed the administrator of, and then it was legislated by the DOJ. And Todd Blanche is literally on camera saying that, and I quote, he is in love with Donald Trump. It's ludicrous.
I don't know if he said that.
So yeah, getting Todd Blanche, your ex-personal lawyer that you paid millions of dollars to over the course of his career, that claims he's quote unquote in love with you, to sign off on never investigating you, your family members, or your companies for any tax fraud that you've committed up to this point in your life is very corrupt. I mean, it's the creation of a new system of justice where you and me could be thrown in jail for a crime. And if Donald Trump has committed that same crime throughout his life, he couldn't even be investigated for it. That's clearly corruption in broad daylight.
I actually have somewhat of a nuanced opinion on this. First of all, I think the IRS is a criminal organization that should be abolished. That's right off the bat.
Okay. How do you run the government without?
I agree. It has to be abolished. I agree. I agree. I agree, man. It's never gonna happen, bro. It's never gonna fucking happen. I always will advocate for less taxes at all fucking times. All fucking times. So I don't think the IRS is ever going to be overturned or restructured. I don't think so, man. It's a dream, bro. It's a dream. It's never gonna happen.
The IRS and without
we ran it for years.
Yeah. How do you enforce taxes though?
I don't think he wants taxes.
No taxes.
Oh,
So
see, I
no
knew
Social
it.
Security, no Medicare, no Medicaid, no
Yeah, you
food
could
stamps,
privatize
no
it.
unemployment insurance.
You could have a
All of
tariff
that's
model,
privatized?
abolish all the taxes, go back to a tariff model.
So you're going to heavily increase poverty within the country. You're going to decrease the standard of living for tens of millions of Americans. I just want to be very
What's your
clear.
data to speculate?
What was the
with that?
poverty
What would lead
rate
it-
prior to the implementation of Social Security and Medicare?
I mean,
This is
you're taking.
by the way, this is undisputed within the academic community because of the fact that there was such high rates of poverty for elderly individuals prior to the implementation of Social Security and Medicare, which is why the implementation of led to a significant reduction
There are
in
different
the amount
ways
of people that were
As
disenfranchised.
far as Social Security goes, there are different ways you could do it. You don't have to get rid of it completely. You could do a privatized, different sort of system.
Either way, you need government funds.
That said, I do believe that the IRS unfairly targets certain individuals. In their case, they spent about $600 million on lawsuits alone as a family just because they were in government. They were elected into office, their dad, right? So I think that's being that targeted. It's a level of political persecution that nobody should be exposed to. That said, if we are supposedly...
There we go. Boop. Grok agrees with me too. Yep, exactly. It is only limited to already filed tax returns. Trump versus IRX includes abundant bars from, what was it? What is it? Exclude forever bars the IRS from auditing, examining, or pursuing claims related to tax returns filed before the effective date, May 18th, 2026. Before, as in everything basically from that day and back. From him, his family members, his businesses, and his organization. It covers past filings and any pending or potential audits, examinations tied to other returns. DOJ has explicitly clarified that this does not apply for future tax returns or new filings ongoing forward, as in the IRS can still investigate him for new stuff going onwards. But yeah. Oh yeah, as I said, it only applied to his old stuff. It was gonna happen whether he was president or not. He was going to continue this lawsuit because of it. Whether or not he was president, it was still going to happen.
Under a fair system, people shouldn't be excluded regardless of their position in government, right? So there's a lot of different things. And also with the January 6 guys, there were a lot of those guys. That's one of the few things that I think is actually...
Oh yeah, the dude stomping on people's heads. He belonged rotting in jail. Who was the other one? Fuck. There was also Ashley Babbitt. If you know, she climbed through a window or a door, some shit like that. But I think it was like secret agents or something that were at the Capitol that basically told them don't enter, and then she tried to, and then she got shot in the neck and died. There was her. I fully agree with the government on there. What else? As I said, anyone being violent deserved to be arrested. But basically what happened was Trump could have pardoned them, but instead he waited out the rest of the time during his first presidency. And then Biden's presidency, after 4 years passed, Trump came back into office, and then he pardoned them after the majority of them spent basically like a little over 4 years in jail. That's basically what happened.
Beneficial out of this ruling, because there are a lot of guys, some of them who I know personally, who are in solitary confinement, were never charged with anything, were very unjustly treated, and they should be...
I think they should be in jail for life, especially the 100...
Yep, and this is the thing. Dean Withers won't admit that some people just walked in. We all agree the dude stomping on people's heads should have been rotting in jail. I forgot his fucking name, that dude. We agree that anyone being violent or breaking shit should be in jail. We agree with that. But anybody, like, because there were multiple videos, and some videos just showed people, like, just walking in. Those people should not have been, like, in jail for as long as they were. They should have maybe gotten a fine, or maybe just, like, just told, hey, fuck off. But those people should not have been in jail for as long as they were.
Was zero due process?
Well, I mean, of course,
a lot of these guys weren't
in this
even charged
country
with
deserves due
anything.
process. But specifically, the 176 J6ers who tried to kill cops and then insurrect the government. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that those guys were in jail. They should be in jail for life. Like DJ Rodriguez, he drove a stun gun into Officer Fanone's neck as Officer Fanone was on the ground being beat with metal rods, while the other...
Yep, agree. If what he says is true, that guy deserves to be in jail. Yep, whoever the fuck that is.
Other rioters were screaming, grab his gun and kill him. And then he gave Officer Fanone a heart attack. And the only reason why Fanone is alive today is because then he was rushed off to the hospital. This guy got 10 years. In my mind, way too light. It should have been life. He's a terrorist. Donald Trump comes around 4 years later and then gives him the full and complete presidential pardon.
Even that
and that actually accounts
Fanone's
for 178 of them. Well, DJ Rodriguez admitted guilt, and it was caught on Fanone's body camera.
Right.
Well, isn't there, if I remember this correctly, isn't there a moment where his body camera goes out and then
Not
you
the
actually
moment
see him
DJ
instigate?
Rodriguez drove a stun gun into his neck.
I wonder
the missing
why.
minute. I haven't seen it.
I think
Supposedly, according to people that I know were there, Fanone was specifically instigating.
So do you think
people.
he's
Let's
lying?
like
The officer's lying?
I'm not saying that he's lying, but I'm saying that there's testimony that contests what he said. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. I have not gone too specific into whoever this guy is. I know a few of it. I know the few of the people. I don't know every little fucking detail of it.
That basing your entire argument on a contested testimony from witnesses
It's
who were
not
there.
contested. He could, dude, DJ Rodriguez admitted guilt. Nothing's
That's
contested.
fine. There's still 1 out of 600 people.
Okay, so that guy shouldn't
There
get
were,
any funds from the $1.8 billion.
what about the people who were in solitary confinement, thrown in a hole without any sort of charge, and then later we're just
We
pardoned?
agree with due process, but would you also agree with due process?
Yes, 100%.
Well, I want to say here, if there was any J6
Well, I'm gonna say this. Those guys are like, do you agree with due process? I have a very sad thing to tell them. Pardons are a part of due process. Like, they're gonna use due. I get it. Yeah, I get it. We can go into semantics and all that, but whether or not people agree or disagree with any pardons, no matter who did it, pardons are legitimately actually part of due process. Like, that's literally what pardons were made for, due process. I think it was like judges can do it, the president can do it. I think there are a few other people that can, but generally pardons are literally part of due process. So he could throw out that word, but he's throwing out a word that he's literally using a part of due process for, and then he's like trying to like basically exclude it out of due process. Whether or not you agree with it, it's actually fucking part of the thing.
that was, thrown in solitary confinement with no charge, and this is clearly corrupt, clearly illegal, clearly in violation of the Constitution. They don't need Trump's $1.8 billion slush
So
fund.
you don't think this should be restituted?
No, what they do is they sue the government like anybody who experiences a breach of their constitutional rights at the hand of the government. They don't need a special privilege, unlike any other American in this country's history, to get $1.8 billion given to them by the president that let them out of jail after they were convicted.
I think
Some of these guys, there
point.
were about 10 or 12 of them that hadn't been fully pardoned. One of them, in fact, it was just about a couple of months ago that his case finally got expunged.
Do you mean commuted? So they weren't fully,
or whatever it was.
Talking about are you saying that their sentence was commuted?
It was finally, his case was finally ended. I don't know specifically the terms. I met this guy at CPAC. He had his case there. He was just taking it around. He's like, I'm still being sued.
Yeah, not a terrorist.
Everybody there was a terrorist?
I think.
What about the people who walked into the building? There's literally video of.
Hold on.
There's literally video of showing them just the doors being open and people walking into the building.
Can I clarify though? Do you think the people should have been pardoned who assaulted cops?
Absolutely not. If you committed a crime, you should be held accountable.
Right. So this is where I'll go. Right. I mean, I think generally, I'll say that January 6th was an awful day. I think it was horrible. I think that any officer that was assaulted, I think all conservatives, not anyone that's like necessarily like a cultist or anything, can look at that and say, okay, that was negative and that was unfortunate. And anyone that participated in assaulting any officers or committing any crime or breaching into the halls of our Congress should definitely be arrested and put in jail for a long time.
Breaching is a bit. Yeah, I mean, you're unfairly characterizing that.
I mean, they breached, bro.
They breached.
Right.
So you're telling me that
that's illegal.
When the doors, there's literally footage that shows
why
that
did the doors
they open doors. Doesn't matter. They were allowed in. People do that all the time.
That's the thing. Some people broke in, but there were also some people that literally just walked in because the doors were open for them. There were multiple entrances, and one of them you would see all of them just walking in peacefully. People obviously saw the window part where a couple people broke into the window. I think, and as we said, Ashley Babbitt, that was one where they told her, don't come in here. And then when she came in, they shot her. There was that. And there were obviously a few people fighting with the cops. There are obviously all these things everywhere. But there were actually people that just walked in.
tours of the Capitol all the time.
Is there
people
footage?
protest
Tours of the Capitol.
People protest in the Capitol Rotunda every day almost.
Let me ask
you can go there. There will be a
There's
protest.
a major difference there. Let me ask you, if the doors...
They were all trying to kill congressmen, all 600 of them? How do they all fail?
I think they were definitely going after Pence. I think the day was generally awful. And let's agree, the reason why the
You
doors
think they were
breached-
definitely? You say that definitely?
They were saying hang Pence, though. They were going
To be fair, they were saying.
It was about. Hold on. You were claiming 600 people were claiming. I'm not saying all
you
600.
You said definitely all 600.
Come on, bro.
You just said all of them.
I can say some people were. I don't think all 600.
Nuclear.
Many of them were
anyone
shouting
who did,
hang Pence.
yeah.
I'm not saying every single
many of them, that's
individual.
good.
I'm not saying every single individual in
You
the
did
crowd.
just a moment ago.
I didn't say every single individual. I said they were, meaning many of them were obviously shouting hang Pence. Now, yeah, the doors were open because they were breaking through. Do you think that just because doors open to somewhere where, like, obviously you don't have authorized access to go to, meaning you can just go through and break in? Of course not. That's still illegal. You can't break into the Capitol without, like,
Yeah, but then the people who just walked in shouldn't have been in jail for 4 years. They should have just been, like, basically, I don't know, like a few days or maybe like a small fine, and then basically the government telling them just to fuck off or some shit. That's what should have happened to those people.
For like access, like being given like explicit access to go to the Capitol before. They were rioting. I do believe that they were certainly being violent. Many of them, and anyone that assaulted any officer should be put in jail for a long time. It was an embarrassing day.
Also, I want to add on to what Matt said. It'll only be 20 seconds because it's really important. We got to ask ourselves, why were the doors open? Because less than 20 minutes before they were open, they were closed with people like Fanon almost getting killed attempting to protect them.
Exactly.
So at some point, when the officials on duty protecting the Capitol from this group of domestic terrorists ultimately became usurped and they were on the ground getting bloodied and they were almost dead, yeah, you know, they did retreat a little bit, they did pull back, and they said, well, we're just going to roll over and show them our bellies or else we're all going to fucking die. Because that's legitimately what it felt like to be an officer on that day. Just look at the testimony.
Legitimately,
on scene. And I told you I'd speak for 20 seconds. I'll let you go.
My question is, there are protests that happen all the time at the Rotunda. They happen in that area. People have done that. They've done it multiple times. There have been Free Palestine protests that happen in the same place. They acted in the same manner.
That's a false equivalency.
How is it a false equivalence?
I'll tell you why. Because those protests. Oh, sure. Because those. Yeah, because those protests.
This is the MAGA
Hold on. Really quickly.
Protesters.
Well, really quickly, because those. Because many of those protests are organized, and many of them, specifically near the Capitol, are not explicitly violent, where they're not trying to breach into the Capitol.
He's wrong. I've seen a lot of actively violent pro-Palestine activists, but the usual case what I see is they go on the road and then they stop people from going to their jobs. And usually these would happen, like, you know, around like New York, like California and all these places where basically they would stop cars, have a giant riot, and then the LA cops would obviously be going around arresting a few of them. There's that. But the thing is that there are a lot of those protests that do have a couple people that are violent. There are that.
Breach into the White House, right, where people don't have weapons.
So let me get this straight,
hold on. Let me finish.
Can I just understand what they did?
And because on top of that, they don't have, for example, like an explicit reason. Like many of the January 6th protests, I'm not saying all of them. Many of their specific belief was that they were going to go in there, right, and punish Pence for not certifying the results, like certifying the electors. That was the whole point.
Okay,
like it wasn't like they showed up that day, hey, we're protesting because we don't like the Democrats or something.
that's fine.
They went there for an explicit purpose. And you trying to like say that other protests that had nothing to do with that like specific goal is the same as a false equivalency fallacy.
That's true.
Okay. So are you a Pence head?
What? What even is that? I don't know what a
I'm
Pence
so
head
sorry.
is.
You're acting as if it takes some sort of political bias to yield the conclusion that they wanted to kill Pence when they're screaming "kill Pence" with a fucking
Yeah,
guillotine
well,
over their
here's the
arms.
thing. You guys
And it's a
are
fact. What
throwing
he's
out-
talking about with the elector
Here's the thing.
scheme,
I'm not
too.
denying that
the
claim.
elector scheme from
Let me
Donald
just
Trump
say
in the
one thing.
2020 election is also very meaningful to this conversation.
Can I say
because
something?
J6 and the events that unfolded at the Capitol weren't like some isolated incident. What
I know.
underpinned the
That's beyond the
J6
point.
riots
Let me just
was
make-
Donald Trump's fake elector scheme, where he tried to steal the outcome of the election election from Biden by installing fake votes for himself in the 7 key swing states that Biden won that he lost. So when we take that underpinning, we add it to the events that unfolded on the day. There's no way that you could yield the conclusion that this was just like your typical run-of-the-mill veterans, sit out in the rotunda trying to get better protections for them after they leave war. No, this was a violent and visceral attack on the fabric of our nation, on our democracy, and as Matt pointed out, Mike Pence, and you don't need to be pro-Mike Pence in order to understand that as a fact.
So here's my question. There have been multiple investigations that showed anywhere between 20 to 200 FBI agents were embedded in there. And
who's
FBI agents.
1 second. Who's FBI?
Who was running it?
Tell me.
Who was running it?
You tell me.
Who was
this is a
Trump
question I'm
administration,
asking
but who
you.
was
so Trump's FBI.
But who was the head of the FBI at the time?
Oh wait, an appointee of whom?
Who was the head?
No, can you tell me who appointed the head?
Was that Trump? Was it
That is a good question. Yeah. Okay. Well, you don't have an argument there, though. Like I've heard
trying to get clarity. Listen,
hold on.
Can I finish just one point? I'm trying to get clarity.
And then let me respond.
I'm just trying to get clarity on the situation because this is the thing. The reason why I'm pushing back is because you guys, including you're painting this whole situation with just broad generalizations about everybody who was there, about the due process that they got. I've heard, including from you, characterizations that all of these people were domestic terrorists. Were there bad actions that happened that day? Yes, of course. Do we know?
To be honest, I actually think he's right here, which is that as I said, there were obviously people that were violent, but then there were obviously people that just walked in. So painting all of them as, oh, you're all gonna like destroy everything is like bullshit, basically. I see what you said.
The full truth of what these FBI agents were doing? No, there's still investigations happening.
Hold on. I just want to say something.
This is literally, there's a Senate. Let me finish my point, brother.
Okay.
There's the Chip Roy.
Oh, I'm gonna say this, bro. Like this is the thing which is that he gave them. He did give them all a chance to speak because like he spoke over him, Dean spoke over him, Parker spoke over him, and then Dean spoke over him, and then he spoke over him again. Like he gave them all a chance to speak, and these guys can't even fucking let him even try to make a statement.
He literally did a Senate hearing. There's like there's multiple 2.5 to 3 hour testimonies of FBI agents talking about what happened that day. I'm just talking.
Saying what?
I'll be less than
saying that they were embedded there, and that there were efforts to not just coordinate but to agitate.
The Trump FBI, with a Trump appointee running the FBI, embedded FBI agents in the J6.
You're inferring political motivation.
I'm gonna finish.
Yeah, bro, you're cortisol.
I'm cortisol maxing.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you're cortisol maxing. Bring it down a level.
It's actually adrenaline maxing when you actually look at the science of it.
It could also
cortisol is sustained
actually,
for
please
hours.
be quiet. Actually, can you please?
It could also be coke maxing, but we won't go there. Listen,
coke maxing?
I'm sorry.
Are you just hurling accusations now?
Well,
I mean, staring at us.
Okay, let's just get back to the topic. What you're saying is that there were Trump FBI agents being led by a Trump appointee embedded in the J6 crowd that inevitably antagonized the people, causing them to insurrect the Capitol, that were then pardoned by Trump. I mean, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything, but if everything that you're saying here is true, it almost seems like this was Trump's doing.
So here's the thing. One thing you have to recognize, part of the reason why I asked you who was the head of the FBI at the time, do you remember the investigations that were happening, the Russia collusion investigation? That FBI was extremely hostile to Trump. So it's not.
Oh, he's talking about. I think that one was Comey, or I think that one was James Comey. I think that's who he's talking about. But basically, like the Obama administration made the Russia collusion hoax, and that basically like followed him like his entire pretty much first presidency. Yeah, I'm pretty certain it was James Comey, but it might have been another name because there's a couple names. But Jesus, I remember the Russia hoax, yeah.
Exactly out of the ordinary to have the assumption that an FBI that's embedding their agents into a rally the day after Nancy Pelosi refused to give him the security detail that he requested, okay? Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer were in a completely different area. They all evacuated. They knew what was happening. So this is what I'm just trying to look at.
Oh, I'll say this. I don't think it was Nancy. It was either Nancy Pelosi or AOC. One of them says, "Oh, it was the most terrifying day of my life," but then like they were literally caught not even being like near the fucking area at all. I forgot which one. I remember it was either Nancy or AOC that said that. One of them.
Donald Trump sat
fairly.
in the Oval Office and refused to tell his people to stand down
This
for
is.
2
I'm
hours.
just trying. I'm not making excuses for the terrible behavior that happened that day. I'm trying to look at it fairly without demonizing people who were not given due process.
Why did Donald Trump pardon the FBI agents then?
He pardoned every single one.
If he, yeah, why?
Name them.
I don't have to name the FBI
We just
agents
need to know that he
there
offered
are
blanket
FBI
Because
agents
nobody
that
knows that. I
specifically
don't
were
think, as
pardoned.
far as I know, there hasn't been a list of those FBI agents that have been
you claim
released.
that those FBI agents were involved in this January 6th. Do you think all individuals at January 6th
The
were
numbers
pardoned?
are between 20 and 200.
Were
according
all
to these
individuals at
hearings.
January 6th pardoned?
I don't know how many of those were FBI agents. I can't tell you that.
Can we
I
agree
know
that
the
at least
peop-
one of them was?
I know that there were at least a dozen.
I could check it, but I don't think I'm gonna get anywhere. I don't know. I don't know if there was any FBI. I know people were. I don't know. I don't know if the FBI were in specific. Let's see. Trump issued pardons to nearly all people charged in an election. Discovered massive participation, with one exception involving the FBI. A former retired FBI supervisory agent, Jared Lane Wise, was charged with a misdemeanor offenses for his actions during the riot. Shouting encouragement at rioters entering Capitol Hill, he was pardoned, part of the mass clemency that later took a role in DOJ's weaponization working group investigation, the FBI. Okay, I guess there was one.
At least one. There were at least a dozen people who were involved in January 6th that weren't immediately pardoned. In fact, I met a guy just 2 months ago at CPAC who was still being charged. So not everybody was immediately pardoned. These weren't all blanket pardons.
Do we know anybody that was charged?
Could be.
Hold
It's
on,
a
hold on,
common
hold on.
charge
Do we
on
know-
the right for
So
everybody to be
everyone,
fed,
everyone
so.
that was involved in it that committed some sort of crime, was accused of a crime, obviously was pardoned. So do we know any of those people?
No, there were people who were never accused.
That's fine. That's fine. Do we know any of those people that were charged or accused that ended up coming out as FBI agents? Can you name a single person?
You think people are just coming out and saying they're FBI agents?
I guess we originally started with agreeing completely that there was political corruption involved with the Trump IRS settlement, but then we happened to disagree with a lot of beliefs specifically on January 6th and the involvement of police officers and whether or not they were lying in the first place, or whether or not the January 6th rioters happened to be FBI agents working undercover, even though it's under the Trump admin.
Let's see. Damn. Okay.
Here is the political reality of today.
Oh God, Bernie.
A reality that we just saw yesterday in the election in Kentucky.
Oh, Kentucky. Okay. Bro, gonna be shouting about them billionaires and trillionaires next time I fucking see this old man, bro.
When Congressman Thomas Massey, somebody who I have very little in common with politically, was defeated by $9 million in contributions from AIPAC.
Oh, I'll say this. Thomas Massey was given $7 million by a Jewish donor. I hate this. I know everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, AIPAC." Yes, the guy who fought him was AIPAC, but what was it? Thomas Massey still got multiple millions of donations for his campaign in a plus 30 Trump district, and the main thing he was known for was basically continuously opposing Trump. He was pretty much guaranteed to lose his spot. He should have made a better exit plan, a better strategy in order to get out, but instead he didn't. And then the thing was, he kind of made himself into the main character, or at least thought he was untouchable. And I remember he even said that he wouldn't go into politics ever again if he loses. Because, by the way, he's going to continue politics, even though he lost. But I forgot who the guy was, but it was like some unknown guy that not too many people 100% know who he is, or what he does. But that's the problem. He went into a plus 30 Trump district, and as I said, he basically opposed him so many times to the point a bunch of people were willing to vote him out for somebody else. But yeah, there's that, and everyone's gonna be like, APAC, APAC, APAC. Yeah, it's annoying, but Thomas Massey got millions of dollars in donations as well. It's not like it was completely, 100% lopsided, because guess what? Trump won his election with less money. Brandon Herrera won his election with less money. Trump won his first election with, I think he had less money than Hillary too. There is that. But he's going to say, oh, APAC and how they fucked everything up and blah, blah, blah. He's going to say that, oh, it was unfair, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go into it. I'll go into it. I'll find the name of that millionaire, but who gave Thomas Massey the few $1 million. I forgot his name, but it was like $7 million.
And $7 million from Trump mega donors. And what was the great crime that Massey committed that gendered so much super PAC money in opposition to him? Well, he opposed the war in Iran, and so do the vast majority of the American people. He demanded that the Epstein files be opened, which is what the American people have wanted, and he refused. What a crime, what an outrage, to be a rubber stamp for Donald Trump.
Foreign entities and super PACs are ruining American democracy.
I agree.
No.
I agree. I will say first and foremost, everybody knows, but well, probably not everybody knows, but everyone knows AIPAC as the biggest name. AIPAC is a American Jewish lobby that advocates for Israel. So they are not foreign, they are a domestic PAC. But the problem I find is that they're still like advocating basically for the best interests of Israel, but they are a literally American like Jewish group formed here doing it. It's not like they're a foreign entity that's putting money into our election. They're a domestic entity that is putting money into our elections, which is still a bad thing no matter what. I actually don't like the group, basically. And the thing is, I'm not likely to vote. I'll say it. Like, I prefer candidates not having it, but if I have to choose between, like, a communist who wants basically all Muslims to overflood your country, and then also wants all white people to die or whatever, I would vote for someone who has AIPAC money over that person, basically. It depends on the person, but I know Brandon Herrera specifically, he fought against a AIPAC opponent, and he beat them. But there are cases where, like, you'll see that people who are pro-AIPAC still win anyways. Like, one of them, Trump is a pro-AIPAC, like, pretty much candidate. But yeah, there's that, so it depends, but that's basically my take on it. I don't like them, I don't like that they're doing it, but I want this idea of, like, foreign influence to be applied to every other organization that does the same thing. Because the problem I find is many people only don't like AIPAC, but then when they see Somalia, when they'll see Mexico, when they'll see like China, Russia, whatever the fuck, they're completely silent on it. That is my biggest issue with it. This one is bad, but all the other ones are bad. But then some people only want to say this one's bad while actively being paid by foreign, like other foreign lobbies that want, the best for other countries. But then they don't get judged for it as harshly as the people who get AIPAC money do. Because they all should be treated the same exact fucking way. But they're not.
No way, dude.
Are you against Thomas Massey?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
But bigger
Let's hear
issue
your
is
argument.
you actually
hold on,
want.
can I-
Hold on. Now, let me ask you a question. You actually want foreign money influencing our election?
Well, so AIPAC is not foreign money. That's really quickly. So AIPAC is the American.
Wait, where does it
Republic.
say APAC on the prompt?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I think
What
about
does
this
it-
period.
Wait, where does it say AIPAC? I'm sorry, wait,
It's called
Matt.
context clues.
Who brought-
Yeah, here it is. Jeff Yass, Jewish millionaire. Look at that. Support for Massey. He gave 7 million here, gave there. So in total, has made it the most inspected house, right? 32 million pending. Massey lost. But yeah. Wow, there he is. Jeff Yaz, billionaire hedge fund co-founder, Sequoia Susquehanna International Group, blah, blah, blah. Yes, funded $1 million to the heavily funded Protect Freedom PAC to a pro-Massey supporter, Super Kentucky First PAC, funds the ads and media to help Massey go against primary challenges. Yas has a long history of supporting libertarian-leaning Republicans like Massey and Ron Paul. He has given tens of millions to overall conservative/libertarian causes. But yeah, there's that too, which is they'll look at that and they'll kind of ignore it because they treat kind of all Jewish people as basically AIPAC. But then a lot of Thomas Massey supporters would look at this and just, they're fucking silent on it.
Mentioned foreign. This doesn't say APAC.
Well, no,
so I'm
foreign
going to
applies.
presume he's
Foreign
talking
applies
about
to
APAC.
Qatar. Foreign applies
I'm
to
sorry.
Chinese.
I'm sorry. At no point did anybody
India
say
has a pretty
Israel.
big
At no
pack,
point
too.
did anybody
Right,
say
but
AIPAC. No, just let me
Sure,
finish.
okay.
The prompt literally just says foreign entities and super PACs are ruining democracy. He says, why do you want foreign money in politics? You say Israel. Go ahead.
Okay, great. The reason why though is because I know that he likes.
I will say, bro. I'll say immediately going to Israel, but the thing is, it said foreign, so basically, as I said, AIPAC's technically not in the question. But as the same thing as I said that this should apply to all groups. This same hostility should apply to all other groups that advocate for the same exact fucking thing. But yet it's almost exclusively thrown at one of them, but not all the other ones that are also problematic.
Talk about Israel and AIPAC a lot. So knowing that context clue, I already jumped to what I knew he would immediately try to mention and talk about. So that's the reason for that. But let's go ahead.
I said foreign packs for
okay,
a
that's
reason.
fine. That's fine. But let me go ahead.
There are numerous packs.
There's no such thing as a foreign pact. That's not
Yes,
how
there is.
that's not how that works. Right?
They
You're
represent
talking about,
foreign interests.
You're talking about groups registered under FARA specifically, and those are not called foreign pacts, right? There's no such thing as foreign pacts.
You're telling
it's
me
illegal for any pack to take foreign money. I want to just denote, right, the notion that this is mainly about AIPAC or, for example, foreign entities. And the reason why I say that is because John Cornyn just lost the Republican primary race for the Senate, obviously, in Texas, and he has taken over $2 million from AIPAC, and he has never opposed Israel in terms of any bills or anything like that, yet he still lost. Why did he lose? Well, he lost because Trump is the unequivocal leader of the Republican Party, and he has total unilateral control backed by billionaire donors in terms of who can win. And so do I think that that's generally a good thing? Yes, because when I look at Thomas Massey, I disagree with a lot of his policies in this proposal. I think that he turned the whole Epstein thing into a scandal that didn't need to be. And he obviously decreased his percentage rate. Let me finish. He obviously decreased his percentage rate in terms of supporting the Republican Party and voting with the Republican Party.
I'll say this. The problem I had with Massey was, as I said, he knew his district, he knew his cards. He didn't play them correctly and he fucking lost. That's just kind of how it worked. And then if you look at everything he tried to get out, or at least was able to get out, nobody was arrested, nobody was put in jail, no incriminating evidence was found on anybody. Outside of giving people more public documents, at the end of the day, sadly, nobody was put in jail for it. Nothing happened, and guess what? Ghislaine Maxwell is the only person that is still in jail, and her trial is still ongoing, and that's the only part of it that we don't have access to the files of, because if we do, it probably would fuck up the investigation and fuck up whatever criminal processes she is related to. Well, that's the thing. Massey should have had a better strategy, but he didn't, so he lost.
Going from 99% to 91%. And so acting as a dissident, obviously he should have been opposed, and he was.
Okay, your point's just subjectively retarded. That's all I have to say.
Don't use that.
That's a great argument. Great argument.
No, it is, and I'll tell you exactly why. When people are getting 6 pieces of mail for 2.5 weeks, talking about how the guy is just an awful human being, when there are literal AI ads falsely framing him as though he's hanging out with Ilhan Omar and AOC, and you have a boomer at home, doesn't he? The disclosure just flashes so quickly on the screen that they can't even tell, and it looks like hotel security footage. Now, the issue that you're misunderstanding, it's about foreign influence within our elections, and yes, very much. The American-Israeli PAC, okay? The American-Israeli PAC, as well as there's a PAC similarly for India, similarly for Qatar, for all foreign nations try to influence our politics, and there is money coming in from abroad to shape our foreign policy. To say otherwise is just either disingenuous or you're having a brutal disregard for the truth.
Let's talk about the foreign money that has been influencing our election. So,
yeah, and I'll say this: here's kind of the only thing that will make me positive towards a foreign PAC, because I like that he brought up all the other ones, because he is right about all the other ones being problems. But specifically for me, the only foreign PAC I can accept is if they want peaceful trade relations with another country and peaceful, like, military, maybe like you know, like, I don't know what they're called, but you know, when militaries go together and have events or like train each other or like, you know, try to get a better relationship together. If there was a PAC that only exclusively advocated for that, instead of, you know, advocating for, oh, the best of this random foreign country over here in the middle of God knows fucking nowhere, I would fully support it, because that is what I consider the maximum it should be. Peaceful ties, peaceful trade, peaceful military relationship. Outside of that, fucking nothing. Outside of that, pretty much fucking nothing. But yeah.
if we go on Open Secret specifically from 2016 to 2024, we can look at all of the money that has been specifically spent. I believe that Israel, from that time period, spent 33%, right, meaning 1/3 of what Saudi Arabia and Qatar specifically sent. We're talking about foreign lobbying. I believe they were about around 200, and Saudi Arabia and Qatar combined were over $600 million. And so the fact that Bernie Sanders, let me finish.
You're not even arguing.
We're talking about foreign influence. Yeah, hey, hold on. Let me finish. Yeah,
you're actually giving even more reasons to believe that foreign entities are influencing our politics.
But guess what? Hold on. But except that Bernie Sanders mentioned AIPAC. He's talking about Israel more specifically.
No, I literally mentioned Qatar.
Yeah, I know you mentioned other countries, but he mentioned more Israel. And I'm just making sure that we understand the amount of money that has been spent.
Oh my God, bro. Oh my God, bro. Bro. Oh my God. I'm gonna say it. I think he's hyper focused on Israel, because like everybody knows, everybody has a giant fascination with them. Oh, look at this little fucking country. Oh yeah, let's talk about Israel. Yeah, so and this is the thing. I don't like the people like both ways, which is the people that are hyper focused on, oh, Israel's the best, Israel's the greatest. I also don't like, oh, fuck Israel, nuke Israel, blah blah blah, this Israel, that. Israel's responsible for this. I also don't like that. But let's get into it.
By Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the general Gulf countries. Now it's significantly more than Israel has actually effectively spent.
But
let me ask you another question.
You just presented a fallacy.
I will say he is right about that they spent less money than those other countries. The problem is all of them are a problem, basically. Every single one of them is a problem. That is the major problem. If they advocate for anything other than what I said they should advocate for, anything above that, like basically doing the best for this country, I consider it a giant problem, basically.
That people love to present when they're trying to defend Israel as far as its influence, financial influence in our elections. So $250 million from Miriam Edelson in Trump's election. That wasn't directly through AIPAC.
She's an American citizen.
I know. Let me guess. He's going to say something like Trump is either partially influenced or controlled by Israel. But then couldn't you say the same thing about Elon Musk? Because Elon Musk was Trump's literal biggest fucking donor. So nobody says, oh, Elon Musk is in full control of Trump. In fact, you've seen Elon Musk and Trump like literally bump heads together, like literally last year over a bunch of shit. And then when Charlie died, that's the one time like they kind of got together again. It was mainly because their fucking friend literally fucking died. Yeah, let's keep going.
Really?
So what?
Again, the first meeting that Miriam and Sheldon had in the White House, what were they advocating for? Explain it to me.
They can advocate for what they want to advocate for. Right. Miriam Adelson, right, and the late Sheldon Adelson were both American citizens that obviously had a lot of support. Let me finish. It's like you're talking about dual citizen, not dual Israeli.
I'm a triple citizen. I can talk about this shit. I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, great. So wait, hold on. You're triple citizen.
Yeah.
Citizens of what other countries?
Italy and Brazil.
Okay, great. Hold on. Should you be able to hold elected office here in America, given the fact that you are a citizen of two other foreign countries?
I actually have a proposal where if you are elected into office and you have dual or triple or however many citizenships you have to renounce it.
Okay, given the fact that
based as fuck. I like that. I like that. I'll 100% agree with him, bro. I'll 100% agree. Revoke your fucking citizenship to the other country you have, and that's fucking it. The only people that should be allowed, especially like in, you know, when they're in like some public office that voted for, like, you know, allowed to have that stuff, I would say only are pretty much not elected. I mean, in terms of the government, only the FBI, because obviously they might need operations in which they'll need to like fake a passport for another country or some shit. But outside of them, I think everyone else needs to revoke all their shit, get rid of it, and then the FBI with like, you know, special coordination and whatever, they can keep that shit. But that's, you know, that's because that's like foreign intelligence and shit. But that's what I think. Anyone in public office who has that fucking should get rid of it. Based as fuck.
You are running for office here in California. Are you going to make sure? Hold on, let me hold on really quickly. So when you run, so given the fact that you are running for office here in California, you do agree to everyone here that you will renounce both of your other passports as soon as you are elected, correct?
I've already filed the paperwork.
Okay, great.
Yes, you don't have to hold me to this. I've made speeches about this. I actually have a plan that's called the JFK plan, okay, that's about removing dual citizens from public office if they're not willing to renounce their citizenships. I'm about having sole allegiance to America. That's it. If you are in elected office. Because we have issues, and it goes beyond the Israel stuff. We have Ilhan Omar, who travels over to Somalia as a dual Somali American citizen, travels over to Somalia and says that she's working for the benefits of Somalia in U.S. Congress. So it's about having sole allegiance to America. And yes, I've already filed the paperwork, but you know what? In Italy especially, it takes about 2.5 to 3 years for it to... Why do you have to act like this?
I'm curious, have you spent any money on any campaigns whatsoever supporting any candidate as you have been a triple citizen?
What are you talking about?
I'm asking you a basic question. Have you spent?
Of course.
I know what he's gonna say, but basically, because you're a triple citizen, I think he said it. Yeah, Italy, Brazil. Basically, your money is foreign influence because it could be influenced via Brazil and Italy. I understand what he's going to say. He's basically going to say that because of that, wouldn't it be considered that? Therefore, shouldn't you have not given money? Say the argument for that, to be honest, I actually would kind of agree with it. I think only pretty much American citizens should be allowed to fund and give money to and vote for certain things that they want. I fully agree with that only, but that's what I think he's going to say, which is basically because of that, you're considered a foreign influence from both Brazil and Italy because of it.
As a citizen of 3 countries, 2 that are foreign, you have spent money on American elections. Okay. And you're complaining about Miriam and Sheldon Adelson that are only citizens of 1 country spending money on American elections. You, sir, are a hypocrite.
Can I say something? If anything, I'm showing that I'm willing to hold myself to a standard that I'm demanding from my elected officials. This isn't a hypocrisy.
I'm actually not going to attack you right now. I'm going to attack you. You said some dumb shit with your answer there.
Right.
You said that you don't like Thomas Massie because he tried to turn the Epstein files into a scandal.
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's first start off by discussing what you're calling a scandal. What you're calling a scandal are...
I know what he... let me see. I know what he's going to say. He's going to turn this into a emotional argument and basically basically, like, if you try to go against it, he's gonna be like, "Oh, you're a horrible person." I'm assuming Dean Withers is 100% gonna do that. Let's see.
There are many women, girls who have been victimized, who have been raped, who have been.
Not calling that a scandal at all. That's you misunderstood my entire point.
I thought you were about to say that there hasn't been many.
No,
women,
of course they
girls who
have been, and
raped,
I
who
think
have
it's
been
awful.
exploited, who have been trafficked.
Right.
And then we have Thomas Massey, we have Rep. Rokana, and they set aside their political difference.
Oh, I'll say this. I will say, I think Rokana tried to make a bill, but later it got adjusted by Thomas Massey, if I remember. But Rokana's bill, he wrote it in a way that he would have gotten some, like, basically sensitive or basically information or and pictures that shouldn't be out there to go out there. And then Thomas Massey, if I remember, I think he tried to rewrite it in a way that it would fix all the problems that Rokana did. Basically, what I'm saying is Rokana would have done it in a way that would have gotten pictures that should not, be in nobody's hands out. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. But Thomas Massey did fix that. I'll give him a W for that, because I think he heavily fixed something Rokana was about to fuck up heavily.
Is to come together on agreeing to singular facts.
Right.
That predators should be held accountable, that pedophiles should be in jail, and rapists shouldn't be roaming free in the streets of our country, in the sense of the Epstein files. So they passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act.
Right.
They give a platform to the victims. They allow their voices to be heard on the internet, on news, and to be voiced through our federal politics and policy.
Oh, yeah. And is he going to talk about how that one MSNBC time where they brought all the victims, they were like, did Bill Clinton or Trump do anything to you? And they said no, came out. Is he going to say that? Or is he going to say that one of the victims who tragically died said Trump was innocent on everything, that he's going to say that? I'm guessing he's going to specifically weaponize it in a way that avoids like any victim testimonies that don't say the messaging he wants, and then he's gonna frame it as, you're a bad person if you disagree with my worldview. He's gonna fully put it emotional appeal
In an attempt to force the Trump administration, who vowed to never again release the Epstein files, to then be forced to release the Epstein
Okay, great.
files.
Let me just go ahead and say that.
For you to call that a scandal, I think is a mutiny. I think it is a act of terror against victims of SA and other survivors in this country, and I hate to hear such disgusting.
Right. So this is like a basic example of someone not having like good comprehension skills and like misunderstanding an entire person's point. So I didn't call what Epstein did to his victims, and for example, anybody that was a co-conspirator with Epstein that engaged, for example, like Ghislaine Maxwell. I didn't call.
Here's my thing. I always said it, but I thought the Florida plea deal was a terrible fucking thing. I think it was like 4 or 5 people were basically like, not put to jail, but they were his co-conspirators. And I think all of them were women, if I remember. Yeah, all of them were women. But basically, what I think Epstein and Maxwell did was basically they got females to have sex with Epstein, and then he probably paid them and then to bring other women to have sex with him, and then that's probably like what happened. As for if anyone else was involved in it, I mean, I hope not. I hope not, to be honest. But there is that.
Any of that specifically a scandal. I think that many people, like Thomas Massey, like Rokana, like other people, tried to turn this into something that it wasn't, right? This whole belief that there's a perfidious secret cabal of people, right, trying to cover up for Epstein and trying to cover their tracks. Yeah, I believe that specifically is a conspiracy theory that has yet to be substantiated. I want to mention something.
Then why did
Epstein? Let me finish. I let you finish. Under the Trump administration specifically, Epstein was prosecuted, right, until he.
Yeah, he's that's the truth. Epstein was caught during Trump's first administration before he left. He actually is saying the truth there. I think Maxwell was also during his first administration. I'm pretty sure.
Obviously killed himself. And furthermore, over 3.5 million files have been released under a GOP Congress and a GOP, for example, executive branch specifically, right? Over 20,000 documents relating to Epstein's emails called, you can literally go on Epstein's Gmail and you can check them all out. Pictures, photographs, stuff like that. Under the Trump administration, we have released now been aware of, right, made notice of, and enlightened to the most transparency regarding Epstein, knowing who he collaborated with,
I'm gonna say that he's actually not wrong here, because the thing is, nobody else released anything related to it like pretty much from Trump's first administration to Biden's second first administration to then Trump's second administration. Trump is the only one who actually released stuff related to it. Basically, what he's saying. It's the thing where I personally don't like the way the whole thing was handled. I thought it was handled horribly, fucking horribly. But like, credit where credit is due. They're the only ones that actually did anything related to it. The Biden administration never touched it, never talked about it. And then when Kamala Harris was asked about it, she said, "Oh, well, we wanted the DOJ to be separate and transparent and away from the presidency for fairness." And so she gave that answer, and that was her answer for why she didn't want to release any of it. Well, that's what they said. But the Trump administration is the one that has released the most files of it. Whether or not you agree with the way they handle it, which I thought they handled it terribly, is basically where the argument should be, because they did release the most files. That is factual.
He sent messages with, who he knew, people that were working with him, foreign leaders and their involvement. So all of this has specifically come under the Trump admin. And so I give Trump credit for this. What Thomas Massie tried to do was to try to act like Trump was some sort of a pedophile, when actually in the Epstein files, there was a document specifically that came out.
Oh, let me guess. He's going to talk about the FBI or the girl. But basically, like, no. There was a police officer that said Trump helped him and get Epstein in jail in the first time in Florida. Or he's going to talk about how one of the women's testimonies was found to be false by the FBI. Or he's going to talk about the one where one of the women said that he did nothing wrong. It's going to be one of the three, I bet.
Talking about the former Palm Beach police chief, Michael Ryder, that specifically said that Trump notified Epstein, or Trump notified Michael Ryder, who was the former Palm Beach police chief, in 2006. And Trump said that Ghislaine Maxwell was Epstein's operator, and that Epstein was evil and to look into Epstein.
Being an historical revisionist is not cute, lowbrow, okay? It's simple.
And Dean is fucking lying here. Dean, this is a lie. Dean is lying because he knows this is bad for his messaging. That was actually released in the files. That was actually stated there. But yeah, Dean 100% lies. He's gonna use historical revisionists, but he's literally doing it himself. He's weaponizing it because the thing is, he doesn't care about the Epstein files. He cares about weaponizing them in a way that's beneficial towards him, which is why he's doing that. This is what he's going to do. 100% bet.
You're sitting over here saying that the Trump administration released all these files, most transparent admin in modern American history, as if this wasn't the same administration calling MAGA supporters dumb if they wanted the files released, telling them to redirect their attention to something else because the files are quote-unquote Democrat hoax, who then had Caroline Leavitt vow anybody in Congress who voted for the release of the Epstein files was committing an act of hostility against Congress. And then when the vow to vote for the release of the Epstein files, that pledge got near half support in Congress, well, then to swear they attempted to obstruct the swearing in of Adelita Gerhova, who would be the final vote for the majority to force the vote for the release of the Epstein files. They obstructed her swearing in ceremony for 6 weeks, and then after she was sworn, then the White House went to Lauren Boebert, MTG, Nancy Mace, and Thomas Massie, and they asked them to take their names off that discharge petition list to force the vote for the release of the Epstein files. Lauren Boebert said no. She got fucked. Her clean water bill for me and another 50,000 of the Colorado constituents where I lived was killed. Right. MTG got fucked. She was kicked out of politics. Thomas Massie got fucked. He was kicked out of politics. And the only reason why Nancy Mace didn't get fucked is because she then once again usurped into the MAGA crowd. And then for you to say that this is the same man who wanted them released.
You're disagreeing with the whole premise. So can you...
all right, he's going to say that. The same man who wanted them released. He said he would look into it, but he never said he would release it. That's what he said before his campaign started. But he said he would take a look at it. That was his biggest major statement on it. The problem was Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi. Oh my God. I fucking hate her because she was the one who said they're on my desk. She was the one that said there's millions of them. She's the one that basically fucked. She's the one that I said, like, she should have been fired within the first 3 months of her being in the administration. She was fucking terrible. But that was the reason a lot of people think Trump wanted to get them out, because what happened was after he got the JFK ones and the MLK ones, there was a lot of pressure for it, and he eventually got some of them out, but then people weren't happy, so then people wanted more. He gave a bit more out. He said they were gonna do no more, and then all that shit happened.
At least concede that an individual citizen who's a dual citizen of a foreign country spending $250 million in an election to then have one of the first meetings to advocate on behalf of this foreign country she's a dual citizen for is not necessarily in the interest of Americans. It's a disproportionate amount of influence that you will never have, you will never have, you will never have, I will never have. Even if I'm elected into Congress, I'll probably end up having meetings where people will try to throw money in my face so I can vote in certain ways. But none of us in this room right now will ever have that level of influence. That we can spend $250 million to influence the president. So do you at least concede that this is bad?
No, actually I don't. Talking about disproportionate influence, yeah, people that have more say in the game, people that have more money, people that own companies and corporations that hire thousands of people.
As I said, I think his point's bad here for the foreign influence stuff, though. Yeah, because of that, but we'll see. You see how these guys are not talking because I don't think they really give a fuck.
People, and there are the reasons why those people, for example, have health insurance, stock options, paid leave, all of those different things. People that have the money to disproportionately pay taxes, we have the most progressive tax system in America, should have disproportionate power in reference to somebody who's relatively a nobody like yourself, right? So that's the main. That's what I think a lot of people.
I feel like that Ben Shapiro comment has become more and more real because that actually sounds like something Ben would say. That does sound like something Ben would say. All right, let's go.
People don't understand.
This is why we're saying
we have a lot of people with liberal ideas.
That's fundamentally
we have a lot of people with these liberals. It's not fundamentally American. It's the most American thing known to man. Actually,
Matt, you're actually proving our point because you're showing how it's ruining democracy.
It's not ruining. It's not ruining.
My vote means less than somebody else.
You're diluting my individual vote for the prioritization of people who have more money than me or have more ability to have control over resources, whether they inherited it or not.
Were the founding fathers more American than us?
I don't know what your point is.
Like, would you say you're more?
What the fuck? What kind of? I would say, to be honest, I would actually say yes, they were, because the founding fathers quite literally started a revolution to make their own country and fucking make America. They are more American than you because they put more sacrifices and they watched their friends die. They fought against pretty much what was I think it was the first strongest empire at the time. And they won, and then they continued to defend it, and then they won. Those motherfuckers were American as fuck, bro. George Washington was a G. Benjamin Franklin was a G. He went to France to get money for the Revolutionary War, just so you know. He wasn't. I don't think he was directly in it at all, but he was a fucking G. I remember one of the other future presidents was also in the war, but he was like a young kid. I think it might have been James Monroe. Don't quote me on that one. I'm not 100% sure. But one of the other future presidents during that time was like 14 years old. Those motherfuckers were G's. All of them. Every single one of them. All right, let's continue.
American than Thomas Jefferson.
I would say I'm just as American.
Just as American as a founding father?
Like, are you saying support of American values, or are you saying
what's
in
your
terms
point?
of being
Are you just not a citizen? American values. Are you more of an American than Thomas Jefferson, who is a founding father?
I would argue I represent more of what America should value today than Thomas Jefferson.
Not today, just generally. Are you more of an American in terms?
No, he ain't. You ain't more American than Thomas Jefferson, boy. Shut the fuck up, man. Like I think this question's stupid, but I would say those motherfuckers were G's, bro. Ain't no way I'm gonna answer no more American than fucking those guys. Hell no. Those motherfuckers were cool.
Of values and principles and understanding the Constitution than Thomas Jefferson, a founding father, was.
How are you defining American? Let me just
wait.
clarify.
I just told you. I'm talking about the Constitution, American values, right?
I think you're just wasting the last 30
Republic and so on and so forth. This is not a hard question.
I think it's a living, breathing document, so I would say I would uphold it to a greater extent today than Thomas Jefferson did then. Because
what does this have to do with passive
changed over time?
What does this have to do with him selling himself or demonstrating that indeed super PACs and foreign entities are ruining the American democracy?
I'll say this. Thomas Jefferson and the founding fathers also didn't want universal suffrage, by the way. Based as fuck. But anyways, yeah, I bet all you motherfuckers would disagree with it. I bet every single one of them you were.
because he said the more
haven't
money you
proved
have,
it.
So why
the
do
more
you
power
vote?
you have, the
Why
more
do you
of a
vote at
vote
all?
you have. Under democracy, it doesn't matter if you're a man, it doesn't matter if you're a woman.
You see, they're also calling it democracy when it was a representative republic because not everyone had a vote. Back then, it was white land-owning males. And the way they did it was because they knew democracy was retarded. Like, if people look at the House and the Senate, they'll kind of see it. One is so majority rule doesn't, like, overtake the country and do everything. And the other one gives minorities, the minority states, equal representation. And then those two, after it passes each of them with a majority vote, then it can pass on to basically becoming a bill or a law or whatever. But they did that. These guys were not dumb, and these guys did not want pure democracy. Pure democracy has led us to argue about whether men should be in women's restrooms. That's what pure democracy has led us to. Whether a guy with a balls literally moving like moving on his crotch is a woman or not. That is what democracy has led us to. Fuck no. Those guys would look at us and think we're retarded. Literally.
It doesn't matter if you're old, it doesn't matter if you're young, it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or you have a single dollar to your name. Your vote should matter just as much as the person standing next to you. And for you to say otherwise is exactly why these types of things are ruining the American democracy.
What is democracy?
Why do you even? No, I want to know. Why do you even vote?
Okay, really quickly, can I ask Dina a question about that actually? So
Just
would
get to
you
my question
consider yourself
afterwards.
like politically literate and very much aware of American politics and things that are currently going on to a pretty high extent? Yes or no?
Significantly more so
Than
compared
the
to
average
somebody
person.
like the average
Of course.
person.
So would you say that, let's say we have
I'll give an example. I bet this table is probably more in total politically literate than the average, American or person that's just doing whatever they want. I'll say that. I'll say this. I'd say roughly 60% of the population has absolutely no fucking idea what they're voting for, no matter whose side they're on, no matter what they're voting for. They have absolutely zero idea outside of like a couple small slogans. They don't know deep economics. They don't know deep like foreign policy. They don't know how like banks works. They don't know how whatchamacallit. They don't know how bills are passed. They couldn't even name at least like 10 presidents. They don't know what the Congress or House they don't know what that is. They can't name the first 10 amendments. There's a lot of pretty much 60% of the population, I guarantee, will struggle with that, and they would also struggle with a basic civics test. Most of them would fail. I guarantee you. I think this table is obviously more well informed than the basic population, but that's just because no matter how much time and effort you put into education and blah blah blah, the voter base in general is always gonna remain dumb. That's just the cold hard truth. Pure democracy has led us to this. It is a fault made by allowing everybody to vote, even though some people are literally fucking retarded. Like, think about it. We were literally arguing a few months ago that women that like married women don't know how to change their names, and therefore that would help disenfranchise women. Like, married women apparently don't know how to get a name change form, and that's why it would disenfranchise women to vote. And I was looking at that and thinking, if they don't know how to do that, why should they be voting? Or they'll be like, black, or some people made the argument that black people don't know how to get IDs, so therefore it would disenfranchise them and other minorities. And I was just thinking kind of like, if your tax advisor didn't know how to get a driver's license, would you trust him with your taxes? The answer is no. This question and those arguments were specifically made because people want to take advantage of those dumb voters for whatever they want in specific. But we literally had that argument a while ago. And as I said, universal suffrage was a mistake.
a homeless man that knows nothing about politics, doesn't even know the three branches of government, and I can go up to him and say, hey, vote for this person and I'll give you like a burger or something, would you say that that person should have as much political and voting power as you?
Yes.
Yes, and that's exactly why I spend
Fake and gay. Fake and gay.
Okay,
This
so
is
wait,
entirely-
that's why we're in the
Give me more than 3 words. Listen,
Give me more than 3 words.
This is an entirely.
No, give me more than 3 words. No,
This is an
no,
entirely
no,
different
no, no,
argument,
no, no,
though.
no. I understand the reason why you screamed "wow" is because you didn't want me to give you a fleshed out response to get a gotcha moment for a 5-second clip on TikTok. But yes, I do.
Bro, Dean, you literally do the same shit. This is the pot calling the kettle black. You do the same shit. The same exact thing. Oh my god. I've never seen his channel, but if he does it, you do it too. I've seen your shit a couple times. I haven't seen these two, so I don't know if they do it. I know about that.
Think that a homeless person in America should have the right to vote, even if they were to be easily influenced and swayed to vote for a person by you offering them a $20 bill, which is exactly why I spend my days trying to end homelessness, which is exactly why I spend my days trying to educate the American electorate, which is exactly why I spend my days trying to ensure that the average voter is just as informed as I am.
You see, he has what is called a childish fantasy. The average voter is not going to be smart. We have tried. We fucking tried and failed. We have tried and failed. It's never going to happen. It's a fantasy that's never coming true. The average voter will never be as smart or half as smart as like those 4 guys on the table are definitely smarter than the average voter. They're at least smarter than 60% of the people voting in elections that don't really, I don't really know the consequences or exactly what they're voting for. They are smarter than that. I can say that. But this thing, we're gonna make the population smarter. We fucking tried. The last 100 years, we fucking tried. And look where it got us. People don't know how to read and do math. That's where it fucking got us. They don't know how to read. They can't even fill out forms. You guys have people helping people by filling out their voter forms because they don't even know how to fucking do it themselves. They don't know how to read or do math, bro. It's over. Give up. It's a fantasy.
And the reason why I do that is because I don't treat an individual's right to vote in the American democracy as optional. There's no trade-off. I don't care if they're homeless. I don't care if they're broke. You're saying that these are reasons to take that right away from them. Well, I view that right as fundamental. So because I view that right as fundamental, that's the boilerplate to then work off to attempt to prevent people from being easily swayed to vote, to get people more educated, and to make sure that they won't vote for a Republican because of a $20 bill.
Since you believe in unequivocal, hold on, really, one question, guys.
Never actually answered my
one
question.
quick yes or no question.
Why do you vote?
Since you believe in unequivocal voting power and voting ability for every single American, let me give you a hypothetical because I know you guys love hypotheticals. So if Adolf Hitler,
I like how he's getting the last thing to speak. Yet he complained about not being able to.
Since you believe in unequivocal power for people voting, right, and that anybody, regardless of beliefs or ideology or even intelligence, should be able to vote. If Adolf Hitler were to run for president here in America, right, and the majority of people wanted to vote for him, would you allow people to vote for Adolf Hitler?
Well, I start a civil war.
Okay, I'll say that was a 100% malicious, bad faith answer. The thing is, because like he would not hold his value system for that if it happened. So that's why he immediately said that. But that question is exactly what it was. It was bad faith, and it was meant to get a bad response or no response. Or, like, as I said, Dean's response, which was, oh, well, actually, now my belief system, I'm running away from it. It doesn't exist anymore. It never happened. I'll say that was bad faith.
So you don't really believe in democracy unequivocally, and regardless of people's political ideology. There you go. Thank you, guys.
Hold on.
There you go.
When we want to envision a hypothetical of somebody like Hitler running for president, well, first, I don't think that hypothetical could exist in the real world because
That's why it's hypothetical.
limits
It's a test logical consistency.
because of the limits of our Constitution.
Right.
And secondarily, the efforts that I put into ensuring that the American electorate is well informed is why.
Bro, Dean, as I said, give up on this fantasy. They're not gonna get smarter. They not getting smarter, Dean.
I don't think that the average American will 50 years from now vote for Hitler because there's people like me, there's people like Parker.
Bro, I bet you right now there's more people that would unequivocally vote for Hitler than they would the past 10 years. Have you not seen Instagram? Have you not seen Instagram? There are more people that would unapologetically vote for him now than there was 10 years ago. There literally are more. It's called Instagram. He literally appears in like every person's third or fourth feed, and then everyone you see them, they put the Germany flags up, they put all that stuff. Like, it's right there. It is right there, Dean. You're not making them smarter. There's more of them willing to do it now than there was when you started your career. You're not doing a good fucking job then. I'm sorry for ranting on so long, but I'm so right about this. I'm so right about this, which is he says, "Oh, this is what I'm gonna do." Well, you're doing a bad fucking job because more people would vote for Hitler now. Oh, okay, let's go. But I will say that question was still bad faith, though.
Trying to prevent that from ever happening by detesting, the neo-Hitler of today, Mr. Donald Trump and Stephen Miller. But listen, my point is, of course there's going to be those exigent scenarios of the hypothetical of Hitler running for president, where I'm going to be like, oh yeah, well, I mean, in that scenario, the democracy's clearly failed, okay? But if it's not in a very clear scenario of the democracy failing because over 50% of people in the country support this brutal genocide that's going to lead in until the deaths of millions, well, under more typical scenarios, I would absolutely say it's the case that everybody in the country deserves the right to vote.
You just conceded that unequivocal democracy ends democracy.
18 plus. I don't think I ever argued unequivocal democracy. I think I argued for the fundamentalist right to vote under typical scenarios where we're not literally having.
You didn't say typical scenarios. No, I gave you the reason I gave.
I guess I'm sorry. I didn't consider.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. That's fine. That's fine. Good response. Go ahead.
So I was like, in a circumstance like that, you're prioritizing the Constitution and individual rights in that scenario and upholding those, and we're totally okay with that. We have no issue with that. But the issue is that whenever you're violating democracy, right, you're deciding to prioritize the interests of corporations and large business interests over the average American, right? That's specifically what's
that's not really violating the Constitution, because under their worldview, the corporation literally would have an equal vote or like equal basically say in what happens to the country. Because your argument is everyone should be able to vote, no matter who they are, even if they could be bribed by a burger. His argument is not everybody should be able to vote. Therefore, you saying the corporation, is basically destroying the Constitution is going against your point. It is.
Happening in that context. So I think the priorities of the Constitution, individual rights, are an actual genuine reason to undermine specifically like an election in that scenario if there's some sort of crazy scenario like that, right? And that's why we have a Constitution in order to be able to keep those rights in check. But we wouldn't do the same thing specifically when it comes to private corporations because that's not a fundamental right. And I don't think that they should have control over my life. I think that it makes my life worse and the average American's life worse.
So I think we talked about foreign entities and the influence of super PACs in American elections and whether or not obviously it decreases the voting power of everyday Americans and individual citizens here in the country. Obviously, we mentioned all sorts of different things, like whether or not corporations are too powerful and whether or not they aren't as powerful or whether or not they should have that sort of influence over America. But overall, I think we had a good conversation and everyone brought up good points. So, yeah.
The questions about Donald Trump, who has always claimed that.
Anyways, I'm going to stop here real quick. I'm going to split this into two parts and then continue it. But yeah, as I said, Dean, your argument there was not that good, even if the question was bad faith.